Wow, the delight is mine. I'm really humbled and grateful. Friends, just a note, I've put everything to the max and the mic is as close as can be for now. My voice is soft and I have a tone of voice that can be difficult to hear for some. If that's your case, please take a moment to really adjust your sound setting, to wear something here so that you can really enjoy the meditation and not struggle. And friends, let's welcome ourselves. Let's welcome ourselves in this moment. I want to invite you to close your eyes just for the time of 3 conscious breaths. Taking a beautiful breath in. And maybe a sigh. And taking fresh air, new oxygen, refreshing ourselves. And on the exhale, releasing tension, releasing anything that needs to be released. I'll do that one more time. So we're walking towards the end of the completion of a week of practice together. And as Mark was beautifully welcoming us as usual, I was browsing through my Zoom windows and looking at your faces. And it's really delightful to see faces I've seen over the week and to see faces of students I love and friends. And I'm really grateful. I'm grateful for this space. I'm grateful to be alive and healthy enough that I can be here. I'll share with you that today it was difficult to choose who I'm going to dedicate my practice to because there are so many here. I'll share with you that I went to the restaurant the other day in Tel Aviv, and at the end of the menu, and it's a restaurant that they change the menu every day, and at the end we have kind of a sort of bolognese pasta, and it's Romy Gonen's favorite dish. And Romy Gonen is one of the hostages. She's very young. She's 23. And I see her face in Tel Aviv and I can't forget her. And they say, this is Romy's favorite dish and it will stay on the menu as long as we wait for her to come back and have it. And so the heart is heavy every time I bring it there. And yet I think it's important to keep connecting and to send the energy of our practice, our cultivation of gratitude for the life we have. Being grateful is a duty, especially when others suffer, and doing good in the world and working on ourselves to raise awareness and compassion. Because I truly believe that if every single human being in this planet was dedicating time as you are right now to cultivate awareness and compassion, none of what's been happening over the past few months would have happened. So I believe what you're doing here is so much more than, a kind of stress reduction or anything, to feel better or even for our own spiritual practice or deepening of our connection with Judaism. It's much deeper. There is something there about a responsibility in the world. And for Hasidim, the tikkun of the world happens through tikkun etzmi, through the tikkun of the individual. So that's what we're doing, friends, and it's important to remember that from time to time. So thank you for being here. So, Yeridat Tzorech Aliyah, descent for the sake of ascent. And we've seen different facets of that. And we've seen the importance of awareness and of humility that humility is one of the midot, one of the qualities that help us the best navigate the ups and downs of life, because instead of resisting, we soften, we go with, we question ourselves, we try to understand, we grow from instead of saying no or why me. Right? Humility has so many aspects in it. And as we saw on Tuesday, I think, we saw also that it's an important reminder that humility doesn't mean saying, I'm worthless, right? To the contrary, it's knowing your true worth, your true value. And as Rebbe Simcha Bunim of Pesicha, which I cannot pronounce, I can never pronounce that, but he used to say that he would walk around with 2 slips of paper in his pocket, right? That one was saying, I am dust and ashes, which is the ultimate truth biologically of what we are. And the other said, the whole world was created for my sake. And both are true. And I think it's important to hold these 2 truths, how precious we are and how insignificant we are. And I think that's what Moshe Rabbeinu was saying to Hashem, to the divine source of life in our parashat Kitisa. When Bnei Israel fall, they really fall. It's a real descent for us collectively. And he's both reminding God of how precious we are and also of how small we can be, and how, and he calls us stiff-necked people. Kashe oref. There's this scene, and this is what I want to share today as a teaching. I'll start by the end almost, but you may be familiar with this prayer from the High Holidays. Hashem, Hashem, El Rachum Vechanu, Erech Chapayim, V'Rav Chesed V'Emet. Beingness, God, source of life, the merciful and gracious. So many ways of talking about compassion. Slow to anger, another form of compassion. And filled great with loving kindness and truth. And this incredible description of God, declaration of God, calling of God by God's midot is really what's become central in Jewish theology, Maimonidean kind of description of the divine. And friends, this is in Parashat Kitisa. This is in the parasha of the descent, and that's what comes after. There's the declaration, and then what does Moshe do? He doesn't say, yay, we won. He bows down. He bows down in humility. He bows down to the ground. And he asks again for God to accept, to continue, lelaveh otam, to continue to walk with them, although they're stiff-necked. And I'll share something personal with you. Sometimes I have these glimpses where I feel, wow, I'm so ungrateful. Because things of life and stress and discontent about this and that, and I'm like, and God and life just keeps showering me with goodness, just keeps and it doesn't matter how ungrateful I am, I keep receiving, just keep receiving. And when you really wake up to that, you're like, wow, I'm such an idiot, excuse my language, so blind. And that's one of the really treasures of spiritual practice, emet, in truth. When we do it in truth, it wakes us up to the incredible gifts we receive. And that doesn't mean, that my life was a calm river. That's not what I'm saying. But there are so many gifts. And I'm talking about a birth song in the morning. I'm talking about this ray of light. I'm talking about having a glass of water when I'm thirsty. So many gifts all the time, sitting with you. And so I'll share with you a teaching from the Hasidic master Meor Einaim, And he doesn't know on what he's commenting, on what verse in the parasha, but I think he's commenting on this, on Moshe bowing down after the declaration of faith. And again, please feel free to stay with your eyes closed, because I'll just really literally just say a couple of words and then we'll go in our meditation. And he says, נודע שאין הקדוש ברוך הוא שורה, אלא את דכא ושפל רוח. And we know, it is known, that God dwells only with the lowly and those of humble spirit. Low spirit, low. And that's from Yeshayahu, Isaiah. And then he's talking about Moshe and saying, this is why we need to kind of go into this place of ma'ani. What am I? Not even who am I? What am I in the end? What am I? And ein, which is nothingness, which is the other side of ani, I. Right? The other side of I, of the subjective, self, is nothing. And friends, I can assure you, I can share from personal experience, what a relief. What a relief when I really remember that. And he says, and that's the beauty, when we realize that we're nothing, then the Blessed Holy One, whole in every way, will be present. And I'll stop here. I don't want to go more into words and concepts, but you'll have the source sheet and you can read it by yourself. So I'm going to stop the sharing. But just that, the humility of Moshe. And not just the humility before God forgives, the humility after God forgives, after God showed God's self to him and proclaimed this, after he received the blessing of really being in the divine presence. That's his response, bowing down to the ground. I want to share with you that many years ago, I went to India with a friend who is Indian, and he came to his house where he grew up. And there he saw the lady who was the servant in their house. And he bowed to the ground and he kissed her feet. And may we do that, figuratively or literally with those we love. And may we do that with the moments that we realize we're blessed with. Just bowing down in gratitude, right? Bowing down is not just for storms. It's also a gesture of honor and gratitude. So friends, let's sit. And I want to invite you to sit really honoring your practice. Remember that you get from this practice what you put in it. So if you stay kind of on the surface, like, when we're afraid to go under the water and we stay the head out, we don't really go anywhere. And we need to kind of deep in order to receive the gift of the practice. And so really dive in, give yourself this opportunity, and also sit with dignity and presence for those who need it today. The hostages, the wounded, the bereaved, the mourners, the lonely, the displaced, the afraid, the orphans. Sit for them. Sit for you, sit for us. And let's sit with that, with honor and gratitude. And feel free to take a few more grounding breaths as we turn towards our shared silence. Inviting the spine to stretch up from the tailbone all the way up through the crown of the head. Tilting the chin slightly down towards the heart. Stiff neck can be good at times. This is a good time. Strong neck, rather. Strong neck, strong spine. If you're coming today with some emotional pain or with some difficulty to focus, place a hand on your heart, a hand on your belly, or two hands on your belly, and just feel your body rising and falling quietly with the breath. It can help you stay present and grounded, and it also can really offer a lot of comfort and love. And friends, noticing where you are right now. Noticing how the mind is. Simply noticing. Does it feel agitated? Does it feel spacious? Impatient? Bored? Taken over by obsessive thinking? Blissful, right? Just the whole range of possibilities. Just note. What's the state of the mind right now? Just like you would note the state of the weather by looking at the window. Because the noticing helps you ground yourself deeper into the seer of your experience. And the seer is very quiet and open, very patient. And it can hold space for your experience, whatever it is. Make stillness and compassion your response to this moment. And friends, as we're entering the last minute of this meditation together, I want to invite you to think of a descent in your life. It can be something going on right now. It can be chronic. It can be a pattern. It can be something in the past, but that is still kind of there somehow in the background. And asking yourself what anava, what humility would do. If you picture yourself behaving with humility in this specific thing, and it can be ever so small, being just slightly, mad at someone for saying something or anything. If I was humble, if I humbled myself in this moment, what would happen? Maybe I'll see also humbling ourselves in gratitude, in acknowledgement, surrender. Daring takes a lot of humility to dare. What would humility do? What would anava do? What would it look like? And what would it do? So let's take a beautiful breath in and out. And let's go and say Kaddish with Rabbi Mark.
Thank you so much, as always, Rabbah Mira. Friends, I ask everyone if you can just to stay present for another few minutes, and we seal our practice, offering an opportunity for those who are in mourning or observing a yard site, or if it's your custom to join in Kaddish to do so. And thanks to Harry Gilboa for sharing the words on the screen. You can put the name or names of those you're honoring in the chat now or after you recite Kaddish. If you're not reciting Kaddish, you can just continue your practice to be as present as possible and help hold space for those who are in mourning, who are invited to rise with me in body or in spirit, and you can unmute at this time. Yitgadal, Yitkadash, Merabah, Rabbah,
Yoma Difra
Ayechon, Yomechon, Yeh Israel, Agala, Ubizman Kari, Amen. Yishmei Ra Mevarach, Maya, Say,
Adar,
Tadar, Vitaleh, Al Shmecha Brichu, Ila Mikol Birchata V'Shirata, V'Kol Nefemata, Imru, Shlama Rabba Min Shemaya, Chaim Aleinu V'Al Kol Yisrael, Imru Amen. Shalom B'Romam, Shalom Aleinu V'Al Kol Yisrael, Kol Yoshvei Tevel, Amen.
Amen.
Amen. And friends, thanks so much for joining us today. Thanks for holding space for those in mourning. Gratitude to Harry Gilboa for holding our space today, and especially to Rabbah Dr. Mira Neshama Weil for leading us today. And just take the moment here to, since you will not be with us live tomorrow, Mira, to express so much appreciation to you. And we'll put in the chat as well a link to Mira's website where you can sign up to be on the mailing list and just be notified of the many wonderful offerings, including morning meditation that's offered morning Eastern time. That is a meditation that Mira offers on a regular basis as well. So friends, you're welcome to stay on, join us for conversation with Mira. You can if you have a question you'd like to ask, you can put that in the chat. You can preferably preface the questions with all caps. I was having a question, private question about access to previous sessions. Just a reminder that all of our meditations are recorded. They're live streamed on our YouTube channel, live, obviously, and the recordings are posted there as well. And we have created a playlist of just what will be the 5 meditations that comprise this series of practices on Yeridat Zorach Aliyah, descent for the sake of ascent. So if you go to the IJS YouTube channel, you can, very convenient, you'll have all 5. 3 are there now, and there will be 5 by the end of the week for you to come back to again and again. Same is true for all previous meditations and also all the previous week-long series as well. So a lot of good stuff there on the YouTube channel. I encourage you to go there. Mira, thank you again, as always. Looking forward to, first of all, again, thank you. We're not going to get to thank you tomorrow, but thank you. It's really great that you recorded that final session, and we'll have 5 full sessions, including the one tomorrow. What's staying with me partly from your teaching this week is this, and I think it's just a nice, easy to remember sequence of the Hebrew words galut, Ula, and Gila. Right? Galut, exile, which you described as one of the ways we can understand exile on a spiritual level, an emotional level, is kind of it's just like a lack of presence, not being awake, not being present to what's happening in the moment. And that when we do wake up, when we notice that we've been in the past or the future or daydreaming or really not here, that when that moment of remembering and awakening and presence is a taste of Geula, of redemption. So redemption. So we go from Yeridat Aliyah right there. And then I love the sweetness of adding to that Gila of joy that can come with it, which in the midst of these 2 months of Adar that we're in, I really like that. So I was thinking about that. I came into this today's sit with that in my mind, and noticing that as we were sitting. And then today you also have touched on this earlier this week as well, the role of humility, of anava, in sweetening, I guess one might say, right? Sweetening those experiences of descent, the moments of descent and exile, and also of compassion, of love, which you brought in from this week's Torah portion, Kitisa. So there's a lot to unpack here. Specifically, what I want to ask you to touch on is to revisit that question of anava, of the text that you brought for us today, which is just reminder to consider ourselves as ayin, as nothingness, which is not actually nothing. Nothing is not nothing. Ayin is not nothing. It's actually everything.
Exactly. That's what he's
right?
saying, by the way. The
Right.
melanin.
So he's saying, don't think that ayin is nothing. That's everything, right? Which is a beautiful, to go back to the first day of the week about these kind of what apparent paradoxes or opposites. That's one way to say a little bit more about that. At the end, you invited people to consider a moment when you were an experience of being in descent. Right? When we're in a descent, when we're in a tough place, whatever it is, we're dealing with personal bad news or political or social or collective bad news. We're in a bad place, quote unquote, bad place. How do I apply anava, humility, in that moment?
It's so deep, Kilo. It's so deep and so important that so I'll try to put words on it, and then we can talk about the end and if you want. I think humility and anava does much more than sweeten the descents. It actually saves us. It actually frees us. It frees us. I'll give you like a kind of generic example. in Chassidut and the Chassidic masters, they really insist on this idea that Hakol Litova, everything is for the good. And I think a deep teaching there, and this is why in Judaism we don't believe in astrology, because we think humans have agency and free will and agency over their future, meaning that we can change the future. So when we say Hakol Litova, everything is for the good, I'm not saying a general statement about the world, that, oh, it will be for the good and, things will happen. It's a way of saying, in a more subtle way, everything can turn for something else. One of the most striking and famous examples we have of this is Viktor Frankl, who survived the Holocaust and really kind of drew from the darkness of the pit teachings for generations from this very descent and brokenness. And then on a much more superficial level, I remember seeing something by an Israeli coach, one on social networks once, and he was saying, imagine if when something difficult happens to you, really, if you take it in, like Hakol Tova, imagine, wow, this will have been the best thing that ever happened to me. So imagine you get laid off, you lose your job, and the tendency would be to say, it's horrible, how could they do that to me? Nah, nah. But imagine, you end up finding the next thing that is the best thing you could not even imagine, or starting your business or anything, right? It couldn't have happened if there hadn't been this descent or this brokenness, but the mindset is what makes it turn for the good or not. Because if I keep resisting, and it's the ego, and again, when I say ego, I'm not, the
Right.
ego is not evil, it's just part of who we are. And on some levels, it's very necessary. And on some levels, it's also really not helpful. And it's important to know what is what, and when to draw on what. And I can share with you that it's been my practice for many, many, many years, that when something happens not the way I would have liked it to happen, I just say to myself, wow, that's exactly what needed to happen. I don't know it yet. That's the only thing. I just don't know it yet, but I will see. And what can I do to see it? And so I don't resist reality. I understand that if I have a problem with reality, it's me who has a problem. Because reality is right just because it is. It's not right because it's good. It is. And
Right.
so the question is what,
We
in
pause there for a
yeah.
second.
Yeah,
Can we
yeah.
just pause there for a second? Let's underline that, okay? Because I think that might be helpful, certainly helpful for me. It might be helpful for others as well. You just said reality is, well, let's just, I'm going to try to spit it back to you, but you tell me if I don't. Reality is not good in our estimation. That the whole idea of judgment, like, oh, this is a good or bad, is reality is what is true right now. You said something else though. What did you say? Reality is.
Forgot.
Anybody remember?
I just said reality
I'm
is.
sorry.
It's like it is what it is.
It is what it
It
is,
is what it
right? Which
is.
is like a
That's all.
cliche now, but it is what it is. But it is what it is. It is what's now. And so that idea of radical, kind of radical acceptance, people are asking the question, well, is humility the same as patience? And there are different Hebrew terms. There's anava for humility, and there's sablanut for patience. But I think that confusion about like what is it has to do with this letting go, a little bit of releasing of the ego that says like, I know what's best, or I know how it should be.
Exactly.
Not that we shouldn't have that. We need to have that ability, right? It's not that discernment is wrong, but along with it is complemented by this capacity to be with things as they are, however they are, which is extremely, it sounds simple and so incredibly challenging.
Yeah.
The other thing I wanted to throw in that you said that was, I thought, very powerful for me, maybe for others as well, was when you invited us to think about, moments, or maybe we're going through something hard, or to call up a moment where we've been in a descent or in a trial. You invited people to put their hands on their heart space, right, of compassion. So I want to bring that back to this week's parsha, to Kitisa, because for those who hear a lot about the quote unquote Old Testament God, the harsh, judgmental God, to me, this is such, and maybe for you as well, Parsha Kitisa is such an antidote to that. Because essentially Moshe says to God, show me what you're all about. And God says, you can't handle it. You can't handle what I'm all about. But I will tell you, give you a hint here. I'm about love, grace, forgiveness, compassion. That's what I'm about. Love, I'm basically about love. So if
Yeah.
people want to look for the idea of a loving God in Judaism, this is the parsha that has it. And as you pointed out, that becomes a mantra throughout Yom Kippur. We just repeat that over
Mamash.
and over and over and over all day long. Just keep repeating that mantra, and it stays in our liturgy as well. It's part of part of our liturgy. So rather than, in addition to humility in the moments when we're stuck in the descent and that low point, as we are collectively right now, I want to invite you to say just a few words maybe about receiving love as an antidote to the pain of being in that hard place.
Yeah. I also just want to take a moment to really thank you for your messages, like here and in private, like just really humbling, and you have no idea how much I'm grateful for this. And we also saw a very, very important question about asking for relief from chronic pain, and is it humility or is this resisting? And I don't know if I'll have time to talk about it, but it's a very important question. Feel free to write to me if I don't have time to touch upon it now, because it's really important. I'll try to see if I can respond on the food. But Mark, what you're saying is really important. It actually takes humility to dare accepting to receive love. And I also want to say that as Jews, actually, we have to, I think this is a moment where we have to feel loved, even if the whole world is showing something else. And it takes courage. It takes a lot of courage. And I think the more we've been hurt, the more difficult it is to accept. And so the more important it is to give first ourselves this elemental love, which is the birthright of any human being, any human being. And it takes humility to receive, because it means I know that I am not self-sufficient. And it's this great other paradox of spiritual practice, is that on the one hand, it makes us more autonomous, deeply autonomous, and less dependent on external approval. And on the other hand, part of it is realizing how interconnected we are and how much we need others and how much we need connection. And we can start with this. We can start with this one giving to this one.
Right.
Because in me, there is a source of life. So when I do this, there is something about life giving to life. It's a very powerful practice, friends. And sometimes practices so powerful are underestimated because, it's so simple. But do this for a while and you'll see.
Maybe that is the, in brief, maybe that is a good response also to Lori's question about, struggling with that kind of radical acceptance when one is heartbroken or, in a lot of pain, is that the antidote to that, to the extent there is one, is love, both. And if it's hard for us to offer it for ourselves, then to see to the extent to which we can receive it from others or from God. And I just want to say, Mira, that one of the things that I think is so beautiful about your teaching is, and what distinguishes people who I think are just outstanding teachers of Jewish mindfulness meditation, is not just about the technical aspect or about staying present. It's really the ingredient of a loving presence, of offering a loving presence and forgiveness and compassion that you really exude in your teaching. So I want to really lift that up and appreciate that about what you bring, what you brought for us today, what you bring every time you're with us, and for this whole week. And want to hopefully reflect that back in the form of appreciation from everyone here for the gift of this teaching this week. So thank you for that.
Amen. Thank you so much.
And wish you Shabbat Shalom. And we know you'll be back to teach again soon with us. We'll look forward to seeing you soon and look forward to seeing and learning from you by recording tomorrow. But we'll hope to see everyone back tomorrow at our usual time. And for those who we don't see, wish you an early Shabbat Shalom. Many blessings, everyone. And thank you again, Mira.
Thank you
Erev
so
Tov.
much.